Welcome back. Now let's turn our attention to Rivers State, where the political crisis there has taken a dramatic turn as the Amewule-led House of Assembly, loyal to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has called on the Nigerian police force to arrest anyone parading themselves as the Caretaker Committee chairman of local government areas now in that state. Now, during their last plenary at the Assembly's official residence, the lawmakers in Port Harcourt said the continued activities of the CTC, that's the Caretaker Committee chairman now put in place by the state governor, Siminala Ifubara, is a violation of the recent Supreme Court judgment, which outlaws the use of CTCs to run the third tier of government. Now, the call by the pro-Wike lawmakers, led by its Speaker Martin Amewule, followed a remark by the House Leader, Major Jack now, and deliberated by members. While describing the CTC as impostors, the lawmakers insist that they are not known to law, expressing worry that they go about posing as local government chairmen to the extent of going to the banks to withdraw monies meant for local councils for wanton squandering in the name of non-existing caretaker committees. Now, debating on the statement by the House Leader, the lawmakers also want all banks, traditional rulers, governments at all levels, non-governmental organizations, and those doing business in Rivers State not to transact any business with unelected individuals parading themselves as caretaker chairmen, as they are threats to the fragile peace in the state. That's according to the lawmakers now. They've urged the police and other security agencies to swing into action and arrest what they call the imposters to avoid the breakdown of law and order in the state. Let's now discuss this further. I'm being joined on the program by Obi Ndukwe, who is the publisher actually, of the BIM newspaper in Port Harcourt and president of Citizens Quest Initiative. Madam, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Let's start off with the latest development. The House of Assembly calling for the arrest of the Caretaker Committee chairman that were, of course, appointed by the governor. So the governor, of course, has argued that they were cleared by the other faction of the House of Assembly. That's the House of Assembly now led by the Oko Jumbo faction now. So what have you got to say to this?
Well, ordinarily, there shouldn't have been any such order, to arrest the caretaker chairman, because the Supreme Court has spoken. The laws, the highest court of the land has spoken. Caretaker committees are illegal. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Any governor who knows his onions, who wants to obey the law, who wants to set a precedent, a standard, should know that the first thing to do is to dissolve the caretaker committees. I think there's one state that has done that. I think Osun State and maybe one other state, I can't remember. That's the proper thing. That's the law. And don't forget that the decision, if you go through the judgment of the Supreme Court, it says it starts with immediate effect. So it's not about anybody going to give any orders. Ordinarily, where things are working well, this is what ought to be. And then now for the assembly to step in, of course, if people are misbehaving or people are not obeying the rules the way it ought to be, somebody has to step in. And maybe that's why the assembly decided to give that order that they should be arrested. But for me, they don't even need to go to all that drama. The important thing is the law has spoken. It should be implemented. And then the people who are responsible or caught up in the web, unfortunately, they didn't know it would be this way. So the best thing is for them to just step aside. And then let's see how these things will evolve and see what happens, where ordinarily there shouldn't have been a vacuum if the right thing had been done, if elections had been conducted. I'm not talking about states who have been practicing it all this while. I'm talking of this particular Rivers State matter, which even the assembly tried to see how they could, make a kind of proviso in the laws. Peradventure, elections are not conducted. But unfortunately, because of the fight, because of the crisis, this side is saying no, this one is saying a different thing. So we got ourselves immersed in this trouble, in this situation where we have the caretaker. And now the court has spoken, Supreme Court for that matter. So, and nobody can say we're going to defy the orders of the Supreme Court or the judgment of the Supreme Court. So I think that what the Assembly, the Rivers State House of Assembly has done is just to further put ice on the cake, So those who are involved, well, they may decide to obey because some persons have decided the laws to obey and the ones not to obey. They decided judgments of the court to obey and the ones not to obey. And that's not good for our democracy.
Now, that should take me to my next question, because their argument has always been that the government of Rivers State comes out to say it follows essentially the orders of the Rivers State House of Assembly. That's the faction now controlled by Victor Okojumbo. And that's the argument some of the government officials now have been putting forward, that the assembly led by Martin Amewule haven't got the authority and legitimacy to issue that kind of order, the kind of order that it did issue.
Well, anybody can say anything. It's not about what you feel or what you say. It's not about what you choose to do or what you choose to obey. It's about what the law says. We are talking about the rule of law. You're talking about obeying certain judgments of the court, and then some you disobey. Now, the court, we're not even talking about the lower court now. We're talking about the appeal court, and that's next to the Supreme Court. It's an appellate court. It says, oh, from the beginning, from inception, from June 1st or 7th, when Amewule was elected, we didn't see any vacuum, any vacancy. He has always been speaker. There's no two ways about it. That's what the judgment said. I don't know the whatever drama that they are, that is taking place. But what is important to me is, what does the law say? The appeal court has spoken. And until that judgment is vacated, it's a full judgment. I don't know if you have it, DEJI. It's about 95 pages. People are not ready to read. People extract what they want. Probably they read the orders, the one that came out the first day. I saw some lawyers, I saw some politicians, I think the G60 or so. They were making comments the same day that the judgment came. And without waiting to get the full judgment, when I didn't want to make any comment until I got it, 95 pages, and I took my time to study, mark the relevant sections and orders. Before they even made the orders, they had to explain the reason and they cited certain other cases why these orders are going to be made. And they eventually made the order, and they said the Amewule-led assembly remains the validly elected assembly and should have been allowed to function. In fact, the court said they don't see Okojumbo. He was not there because in one of the reliefs, I think relief 2 and 4, by the Okojumbo group, they wanted the court, the lower court. I mean, Justice Wale, that's the court that the appeal court eventually said they don't have jurisdiction. They wanted Justice Wale to say that, oh, they are the substantive, he's the speaker, and the other ones are the members, and the 27 others are not members. But after the ex parte order given by Wale stopping Amewule and Co., Amewule and Co. decided to go to appeal court. Let me tell you something. A lot of people don't even know that it's even the Amewule group that went to the appeal court. People are just talking. And then the court now says, look, we didn't see Okojumbo because Okojumbo relied on the actions of Edison Ehie. Edison Ehie was the one who claimed to have been the speaker and who declared the seats of Amewule and Co. vacant. But even the Federal High Court by Justice Kayode Omotosho says Edison never existed in the eyes of the law. It's not in the eyes of sentiments. He said he never existed. So you can't put something on nothing. If Okojumbo is saying because Edison had declared their seats vacant, he now is the speaker with the other 2 or 3 members. No, it's not possible because it does not exist. So you can't say, look, I want to obey this law and I don't want... Look, it's just like the case of Adam and Eve. God said to them, eat this fruit, don't eat this one. There are certain areas you don't go to. He said, don't eat this particular one. You can't choose you can't choose to disobey. You can't choose to disobey the courts when the courts have given orders. It's not about the rightness or wrongness, the political whatever. I don't care about the Christ. I don't care about the factions.
Now, the governor of the state, Fubara, has continued to act in line with the pronouncement of that faction led by Okojumbo. And a good example will be the 2024 budget. Of course, you know, the Amewule-led House of Assembly asked the governor to represent the budget for passage, which the governor refused to do. And in fact, the Okojumbo faction came out to say the governor shouldn't do that. You then begin to wonder, what's going on here?
Yeah. It's just like we're in a banana republic where anything goes. I mean, we these are elected officials. These are people that we gave the mandate to run the affairs of the state. The governor is the highest as far as River State is concerned, and then you have the state assembly. Of course, all of them were elected. It's not like anybody is subservient to the other. But where a governor chooses the judgments of the courts to obey, that's we begin to have issues. And I think that's part of the reason why the Supreme Court frowned at the issue of caretaker chairman, and then of course the autonomy of local government, which they made it insisted that the money should go to the local government, because this money was actually meant to be kept in trust for the local government. I mean, when they jack, after FAC, then they have to have a jack, the Joint Allocation Committee at the state level, where the money will now be disbursed and paid into the accounts of the local government. Now, Supreme Court frowned at it. If you look at that judgment, they said, no, you cannot keep money meant for another tier of government. We only gave you because 774 council chairmen cannot be coming to Abuja to hold meetings and then collect their money. So let us make it easier by allowing the state governors, just 36 of them, come to Abuja through their commissioners for finance. They collect this money, and then you go back, disburse to the local government chairman. Unfortunately, they now became big brothers. They now decided how much they want to give. So in some cases, they don't even give at all. All they manage to do is to give them money to pay salaries, and maybe give the chairman whatever is his security vote, and that's it. So that's what we are saying here. Now, if it's a governor of a state who is in the eye of the storm, is now choosing the part of the judgment to obey, then we have a big problem. I think that he should set a standard and say, okay, fine. If the courts have spoken, if the appeal court has said, Amehule, you are in fact, it started with the Federal High Court. Omotosho gave that judgment in January 2024. And if he had gone ahead to represent the budget, no matter whether your pride or whatever is being impugned on, the important thing is you do the right thing. I think the problem the governor has is with the people who kept on prodding him or saying, don't do this, it's not constitutional, the 8-point resolution and all that. Why would you represent the budget? And now they have put the man in a serious quagmire. Because if the Supreme Court validates the judgment of the appeal court, then the governor will be in a deep mess. Now, the question is, will he go back to represent that budget after 1 year or more, or he's going to continue with that impunity? Because it's impunity. I don't care what anybody thinks. It's not about who I like or who I'm working with or who I'm not working with. It's impunity at the highest level. When a judgment has been given and somebody is challenging it, we're not talking about states that you have maybe assemblies that don't want to speak right now. Because I think that every state assembly ought to challenge their governors, particularly where in those 20 states where you still have the illegal caretaker committees. But since they don't want to do it, well, that's their own business. Now this one has decided, probably because of the political crisis already in place. But I think there must be an end to this. And the only way to end this is for people to obey the laws, for people to obey the Constitution.
You look at the way the courts in River State, the way they have actually conducted themselves over this political crisis in that state. How will you describe it? I mean, with different judges giving different orders and causing confusion here and there?
Yeah, Deji, it's just like why the reason why people are saying we don't want community policing, because unfortunately the state governors might begin to use it to their own advantage. That's what's happening when you have the state courts, unfortunately. With all due respect to the judiciary, I think that the CJ and then the NJC should rise up to the occasion to begin to discipline judges who grant ex parte orders of such magnitude without having to put the other party on notice. It's wrong. I saw a story yesterday or so flying up and down the River State that the courts denied, stopped Amehule's assembly. They actually filed that they stopped the governor's expenditure, and the matter came up at the High Court and all that. And then people are saying that the Federal High Court did refuse to grant their prayers. My dear, a lot of people get these things, misunderstood. I had to correct somebody and I said, listen, that's the proper thing to do. You don't file a motion in court and then you motion ex parte, and you expect to get an ex parte order stopping the other person in such a manner. You're talking about stopping the expenditure of a state, and you think the court will just grant it. No, it doesn't happen that way. If you do that, the government will go to a higher court and claim that they were not given rights to fair hearing. And in our laws, it's a very serious matter. Once a party says he was not given the right to fair hearing, of course, you know what the result will be. So I think that the state high courts, maybe that's what has been happening in the past. But I think that they should know that we are moving into a new era, a new phase. Nigeria is now beginning to align with global practices and global standards. You don't go and then abuse court orders, abuse court processes, and then say because you have... I give you an example. The matter before the appeal court, the counsel for the Oko Jumbo group said that the High Court has unlimited jurisdiction to declare the seats of the assembly vacant. And the court said no. It said no. Section 272 subsection 3 is very clear. It's very clear that it's aside every other powers they have given to the courts, but as per the issue of vacancy of a governor, the seat of a governor, seat of a deputy governor, and the assembly, it is only the Federal High Court that has the powers, the jurisdiction. Now, what are we talking about? Our lawyers, unfortunately, sometimes they misguide these people. They tell us something different, even when they know the truth. They want to twist it. And then they also in cahoots with some judges who also know the truth. Justice Wali is a respected judge. We didn't expect that he would have granted such ex parte orders. And unfortunately, that order and that ruling was messed up by the appeal court. You need to get the judgment. If you don't have it, I'll send it to you. A lot of people don't have the full judgment, and that's why they keep making comments. But again, like I said, the judiciary needs to clean itself. The NJC needs to come up, the CJ, and we need to see them bite harder. Let judges, people be used as examples, and then you can see that there'll be some discipline. People should know their limits. If the law says you don't have the jurisdiction, you don't step into that. And even if you're going to grant an ex parte order, it's not for such serious matters.
Let me ask you this final question. How can the political crisis in Rivers State be resolved? Why can't it be resolved politically? What exactly is the problem, and what is the solution?
Well, if you ask me, I will say that the solution lies within the powers of the actors. It's not a difficult thing. Like I keep telling people, it's a PDP internal affair. It's not something that everybody should jump into the foray. They know how they started. They know what they agreed. And so they also know how to end this matter. But again, pride has set in. People have become arrogant. People have forgotten where they came from. They forgotten how they started. And then you have allowed enemies, people, crisis entrepreneurs, people who want to be cash out. Let me use it. Sorry, cash out, who are now beginning to give advice. Now, the solution I've always maintained is a political thing. And I think that's what President Tinubu tried to do, which along the line, the governor accepted with his whole chest. But along the line, some persons began to say, no, you don't need to do this. It's not constitutional. You need to. Now, the constitution has come in place. What's the constitution? The laws. And the laws are speaking and people are not obeying. I've always said, it's not about the noise. It's not about the applause of the people. It's not about, I have the organic support. It's about what the constitution of the country says. And if we want to set aside the constitution, since it's an internal thing, they can decide that we want to settle our differences. It's the same assembly. They are all PDP. The governor is PDP. They are calling Esowike, the minister for FCT, as the godfather of the two. Yeah, he's the one. So even all the key actors are all PDP. Every other person who is coming in is just a meddlesome interloper. That's the truth of the matter. So if they want to solve the problem, they can sit down in a house and then put their distance. That's why I pleaded with them to go back to the president, where they started from, who tried to, see how he could solve this problem.
Well, PDP governors have said they are going to try to resolve this. Do you have any confidence in that?
I was going to mention that the PDP governors have said they are going to intervene, but of course, they also wasted a lot of time. They allowed a lot of egos, a lot of talks, and then mockery and all manner of jabs being thrown. But of course, that can be set aside. It's all politics. It doesn't matter. If the PDP governors are sincere, now that it seems like Fubara, the Rivers governor, has run to them to say, look, you guys need to help me. Maybe he has also seen that following the law will not favor him. The noise keeps favoring him, but the law doesn't favor him. So maybe his brothers in the PDP Governors Forum can also intervene. After all, it's a PDP thing. About 5 of those or 6 of those governors I know are also very close to the Minister of FCT. And I'm also aware that even the Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly is ready for peace if he's allowed to function. People are talking about defection. Well, unfortunately, the appeal court nullified whatever decision of the High Court on that matter. The Federal High Court also did not speak against the issue of defection. We still await maybe 1 or 2 other courts where they have filed suits on that. But I believe that the Supreme Court is going to have a consolidated hearing on the issues and then come up with something. So, but as it stands now, Amehule is the speaker with his the colleagues, I think 26 others as members. And so they can all just come together, but somebody has to, some ego needs to drop, some ego needs to drop. But of course, let me tell you, most times it's not about the people, it's about the person, what they want. It's an individual thing. You see, people sponsor people for elections, and suddenly that one realizes that it's my right, I have the powers to do so. And then of course the one that sponsors also to an extent will realize that yes, it's a new order, somebody has come in, it's a new sheriff, but the sheriff also needs that to also know that you need to understand the game. You need to what's this man's name? It's not Don Williams, what's Kenny Rogers? He said you've got to know when to throw the cards, when you need to know also when to. It's not every time you run away from fight, but it's not also every time you need to fight. So maybe this is not the time to keep fighting. It's a time for them to come back together and make peace.
Well, I'm afraid we'll just have to leave it there. Obi Ndukwe, who is the publisher of the Beam newspaper and the president of Citizens Quest, an NGO in Rivers State. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Thank you for your time, madam. All right, that's how much we can take on the program this week. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.